What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and being here on my channel. We are going to be playing with the Berries palette from Beauty Bay. I've been eyeing this since it was released and I just thought it was a really fun size. I love pink and berry tones and I love monochromatic palettes, so I've been curious about the Beauty Bay formula. You know, I hear like mixed things. A majority of people really enjoy it, so I've been curious, and it is very affordable, which is what kind of made me skeptic. I'm always like, how can they do that? How can it be good? How can the ingredients work well for only $11? And then I got this on sale for $6, so I kind of was tempted, couldn't resist, and wanted to play around with it. So I know I'm kind of late to the party, but here we are. I want to do a couple of looks for you with just playing around with it, and there's so much to try. There's all these beautiful mid-tone pinks, some light frosty pinks, there's some dark plums down here. So a lot of people's kind of gripe with this palette, or con when they were using it in videos that I watched, was it was kind of one note and there wasn't a whole lot you can do with it. So I want to do a few looks for you guys and see what I can come up with. So this one is the first look, and let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so I think I want to do something smoky today. I think I'm going to work with this darker shade called Journal. Kind of hang out in the bottom portion of the palette today. And I'm going to go the full length of the eye today, but I'm going to stay above my natural crease. And I'm not using a primer today. I just kind of wanted to play around with the formula and see how it works. This is my first experience with Beauty Bay, so I kind of don't know what to expect or how the shadows work. I hear a lot of good things, but the people I hear good things from are usually people who do really intense looks, who normally pack on color, who like to work with more pressed pigment palettes, where I typically tend to be more like a build it up kind of makeup user. So we'll see. So I'm basically just drawing over the lash line, and then I'm going to take it out just a little bit. And I want to leave myself some room on the lid to kind of fluff up. And this is kind of the deepest shade in the palette, so I'm going to go ahead and just pack on the outer corner as well. So far not too bad, especially for like these purpley pinky shade, a very deep one. I know anything similar I have to this in my collection is kind of finicky and it's very dry, where this seems pretty smooth for a shade like this. I want something kind of fluffy but still dense, so we're going to continue to kind of pack on color. I think I'm going to go into this rosewood shade and blend out. I'm just going to kind of press this over the edge of that purple, and I am kind of doing about 50-50. Not the smoothest blend. I still have a harsh line here. I'm going to pack some of that shade in the inner portion of the lid as well with the same fluffy brush. I'm going to take another fluffy brush that's kind of dense. It's got a little bit shorter bristles than the initial one. I think I'm going to go into the shade Loyalty. It's similar to this first shade, it's just a little bit lighter, a little bit warmer. And let's see if I can just go over this purple and get it to blend out to a softer edge here. There we go. I think there's just a little too much contrast between that pink and that deepest shade as far as the depth, the lightness and darkness. Now I've got something kind of in the middle to help blend that out. That's better. Okay, now I think I'm gonna go into Jura just with my finger and put that all over the lid. I'm not using any kind of primers or anything. I just want to see how these work on their own. I'm going to take the shade Nova and I'm going to put that on the inner corner. I think I'm going to use that same brush and tap a little bit of Nova right here in the middle. Just give it a very subtle sparkle. Cool. And using the same brush, I'm going to go into that deepest shade Journal. And then I'm going to take a fluffy brush, same shade, and just bring it down and smoke it out. So really pretty purple. I'm going to take the shade Loverboy from ColourPop and just pop it in the waterline. I'm going to clean up this edge a bit with some concealer, just kind of sharpen it a little bit. And then I'll do the other eye and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's everything all finished up, both eyes. I put some Clinique mascara on, my tried and true. I finished up with, you saw me apply the pink liner. I finished up with this jumbo liquid liner from Moira on top. I did a tight line and a little bit of lower lash with this Pixie Endless Silky Eye Pen. So finished up with some eyeliner. If you're wondering what shade has been on my lips, they're both ColourPop. I have Cool BFF liner, and then this Lippy Sticks in the shade Cookie. Just something very nude and simple since these eyes are very bright and sultry. I wanted something smoky today, and I definitely went a little crazy with the smoky all the way up to my eyebrows. I think for the next look, I'm going to do something a little bit more simple and subtle and probably with some lighter shades in the palette. So I will go ahead and finish up here, and let's get into the next look. Okay, so for today's look, I am using primers. I used my Moira primer in the shade Beige on my lids, and I'm going to be using a glitter glue. So I think for today's look, I'm going to do something a little bit more subtle than yesterday's look. Just going in with a pretty big fluffy brush, and I'm just going to dust that in the crease. It's a really subtle, soft shade, not really showing up all that much. And I think with the same brush, I'm going to go into the shade Loyalty and just do a little bit on the outside. And this just seems to be building nicely. Like, I'm using a fluffy brush and I can go in again and again, and it does seem to be building up the color if I want it to. Just gently pulling some color to the outside of my brow. I'm going to take like a little pencil brush, go into this deepest purple shade that you saw me use in my last look. It's called Journal. Just put this a little bit along the lash line on the outside of the eye. It's very similar to that previous shade. Now I'm going to take some NYX glitter glue on my finger and just pack that on the lid. And then I'm going to go into the shade Cloud. As I get to the middle of my lid, I'm going to go up above the crease a bit more. I want to try out some of this shade called Claret. And I think I'm just gonna press into the crease here. I wanna see if I can just define this edge a little more with this more reddish shade, whereas the other two shades I chose were a bit more on the plum side. Yeah, I like that. So I think I'm gonna line with that shade as well on the bottom. I'm gonna take this peachy shade with a flatter brush and just kind of blend everything out with that. And this shade is called Curve. Today I'm going to use the Warrior Princess mascara from Flower Beauty. So I think the way to get variety out of this palette is a definitely color placement, and then the shimmers make all the difference. So that's look number 2. Let's get into look number 3. Today we are going to be doing the final look with this palette, and I think I'm going to hang out in this like upper region here with like the warmer reddish shade. And I think I want to do something with this like pinky shade too. It's really pretty. Didn't really use a primer today. I just used my concealer, which is how I used to do it before I was using that Moira primer. Just kind of want to play around and see different application techniques and things that go together in my collection and how they work. Let's start with this peachy shade called Curve. And kind of like this dense brush. I'm just gonna put this like all over the lid for now. So I'm going to take still a dense fluffy brush, but it's got a little bit longer bristles. And I'm going to go into the shade Lilo. Tap this on the outside. And I'm kind of going at like a diagonal. Just to add a little pop of color. I'm not going to add too much here. I'm going to start deepening up the eye next. Let's do this reddish shade at the top called Claret. And just keep it towards the lash line and on the outside of the lid, kind of a diagonal here. I'm just kind of packing and pressing it on. Because these colors are all so similar in tone, they're basically just like lighter or darker or slightly more cool, slightly more warm. I mean, they do layer over each other nicely. But I feel like to get a nice blend, you do have to use like 3 to 4 shades. That's just my experience so far in doing these looks over the last couple of days. Is in order to get that seamless blend, you really do just have to like use the multiple tones together. So far I'm liking this palette. I think it's really pretty. There's a lot of different variety of the same kind of berry tones, which is cool. It's basically like an oversized monochromatic palette. But I would kind of put it in that good for the price range. And I hate doing that. It's either good or it's not. So I would like so far rate this as an enjoyable palette, a fun palette, but probably like okay as far as my favorite or the quality. Like I'm not trying this palette and being like, I need to try another Beauty Bay palette right now. Like I do find that what I have in my collection already is comparable and better to this quality and the colors. Which, to be fair, my collection is so big that like at this point I'm going to be buying repeat shades of something. Like I already have what I like, use, and need already. There's very few gaps in my collection. I'm going to use the other side of this brush and go back into that first kind of pinky, light pinky shade called Curve and just like pack some more of that on the lid and blend these two shades together, which is looking really nice. That's doing a good job. I like the shade Curve. It's very milkshake strawberry-esque. It's pretty. It looks peach in the pan, but it's very like bubblegummy light pink. So even though I use like totally different colors, I feel like with the way I did the placement and everything, like it's looking very similar to yesterday's look so far before I put the shimmer on. which I know was a lot of feedback that I saw watching reviews on this palette. It was kind of one note, you get the same looks over and over again, and as much as I'm playing in totally different tones from cool to warm, I can definitely see why that is a critique. But I'm okay with that. Like, I love these tones and these colors and this variety, and in most cases, you know, when I'm not just trying to play with this palette only for filming purposes, I would be mixing and matching with probably some neutrals with these colors. I really love like pinks with neutral warm browns. And the shade Sofa on the inside, and just see what happens. Ooh, that's pretty together. That really makes this daiquiri shade, it looks pretty red in the pan, or like a good red orange, but like with these shades out here, hopefully it's translating on camera in person, this is looking like super neon. That's cool, I like that. This is looking like a neon pinky tangerine, it's really cool. Okay, and I'm just gonna go into that shade Sofa. And just go on the inside of the lid. This one almost feels like it's like a duochrome too. It's like pinky with like a golden flip to it. I'm gonna take one of these flat brushes and just see how it works. Kind of want to like round this out and bring it a little higher up. Have it meet this color I did before. Ooh, I like that. I'm gonna go back into that daiquiri shade and just tap that on a little more. Basically, I'm getting my depth for the vibrancy today, even though these are all like very similar in tone. Instead of light and dark today, it's like this very vibrant neon and then the more neutrally pink. It's kind of giving me my depth. Cute. Take that first packing brush and go back into Claret, that kind of reddish deep shade. Just pack a little bit more on this outside edge, just in this diagonal shape here. Just so you can kind of tell the difference between out here and right here. And this will pretty much be today's look. I think for the bottom lashes, I'm going to use this flat brush in the shade Sofa again. And just go along the bottom lash line. Just to add a little something, but to keep it subtle. I think I want to use the Bambi mascara today. I really enjoy this one. This one is from L'Oreal, the Bambi Eye. L'Oreal makes some of the best mascaras, in my opinion. Pretty sure I'm not alone in that. Okay, so here it is, all finished up. I think it's really pretty. A little different than I thought it was going to turn out to be. Like, this turned out to be so much more like neon pinky orange, which was really fun. If you're curious what I'm wearing on my lips, it is the combination of this Flower Beauty Mix and Matte Lip Duo in the shade Melon. And I'm using the lip liner and this lippy pencil from ColourPop called So Happy. And I believe this color is discontinued, but it is just sort of that like neutral warm brown shade. A pretty fun palette, lends itself to a lot of bright pinky looks. Pinky and plum, not so much red. Nothing was very deep in that palette. Because I loved the Ooh La La ColourPop palette so much, this is sort of like a big sister. It's like the same but more, and you definitely get a better variety of shimmers in this. So that being said, if you have that one, love that one, kind of want an expansion to that, I would recommend this. It was only $11 and I got it on sale for $6, so really awesome deal. I did want to show you some others in my collection that came to mind as I was using this palette. One of them is the Unearthly Cosmetics Strawberry Milkshake palette. And it's much smaller and obviously has these greens, but like I really think that this has a bit more variety for even being a smaller palette. Like this is very deep and very true to this color. It's got this vanilla shade, which is nice for blending out bright colors. This is a bit more lilac-y of a shimmer and a very high quality shimmer. Like it's so pretty. I talk about this palette a lot. It's got this pinky shimmer and this red shimmer. More on the pricey side compared to the Beauty Bay one, but I think the quality is more superior. And if you love pink and green together, then this is a wonderful option. Another one that came to mind that is going to be a great companion palette for this Berries palette, as well as it just has a lot of similar tones and shades, but is hella expensive. This one I believe is $50, but it is an indie brand. This is the Bella Beauty Bar Star-Crossed Lovers, and it's a bit more cooler, like more purpley, but like this shade and this shade and this shade are all really similar. They don't look like it in the pan, but if you go watch that video, they're all like this very like kind of mid-tone, almost deep pinky berry color. Like this one looks very dark in the pan, but it's very similar to this shade here. This shade is a lot like the bubblegum color I put all over my lids today. And then you have like this reddish shade, which is a lot like the Alien Cosmetics one and a lot like the one in there. The thing that you're getting extra of is like this purpley shimmer, this duochrome, and then this awesome multi-chrome. So I think this multi-chrome is gonna look so cool with the Berries palette. And I think it's going to be a really fun companion palette to this one. It's just sort of like an extension. I would say that the quality is actually somewhat similar. I didn't care for the mattes as much in this. They were just very light, very faint, kind of didn't build up that much, but the shimmers in here are really amazing. So this will be a fun companion palette. I'm not saying you need both, but I did want to talk about how, you know, there were some similar color stories and I was getting similar looks to what I think I came up with this palette with this one. So just a good example of how things may look a little different, but once you actually start doing the looks you prefer on your eyes, you can be creating about the same thing. So just something to consider. That's a majority of my thoughts on this palette. Pretty good, fun to play with. If you're a pink and berry lover, it's a great steal, good quality. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video now. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, watching me play around with my first Beauty Bay palette. I like the looks that I came up with. I can't believe I got this palette for just $6. It's originally $11, so I think it's a really fun monochromatic pink palette to add to my collection, and I really had fun playing around with it and seeing what I could come up with. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in my next video.